Welcome to Tech London, a show featuring interviews with London's top creative entrepreneurs, startups, investors, design agencies, internet marketers, and freelancers that make up the Tech London online community, which mostly lives on the Slack instant messaging platform. We rotate through both hosts and guests for these interviews, so you have the chance to hear from multiple perspectives on London's tech scene.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Tech London podcast. We're going to get right into it today because my car's on double yellow lines outside the studio. So, Matt Hodkinson, what are you known for, and what would you like to be known for, sir?
Hey, Bernie. Great to be talking with you as ever. So I help consultancies and rather perceived to be dull B2B companies to escape meh and inject a bit of intrigue into their positioning and messaging so that they can grab and earn and retain the attention of more of their ideal fit buyers. How do I want to be known? Well, I'm kind of already getting known as the chief MEHscapologist, which is causing a few waves in a very, very small community of clients and people who know me.
Why did you pick that name? Because I just love anything you do, Matt. But what is going on with that name?
So it kind of came to me. A lot of what we do is changing perceptions around people's businesses, and that all comes down to language. It's what we tell people that we do, and you and I have done a lot of networking over the years together and separately. And the fact is, whenever you go up to somebody seemingly and say, "What do you do?" in 95% of the cases, what they come back with is like a job title or something rather dull. And I know this is all a bit kind of cliche and well known, but it's never really all that captivating. And you end up kind of looking over their shoulder for the next person or whatever they tell you. You kind of think, well, I've just met 7 of those. You know, what makes you different? What do you do differently? What stands out? And like you just said, what do you want to be known for? Because at the moment you're known to be quite dull. So when it comes to language, I do a lot of kind of research, I do a lot of kind of testing and, playing around with different words and phrases. And this idea of MEHscapology came to me because I think the idea of meh has become common parlance. I was told recently, actually, by an agency we're working with that it started on The Simpsons.
Yes, I'm sure it did. I don't know that for a fact. I nearly claimed I did know that, but that is what I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just this idea of escaping meh, so that when you talk about any aspect of what you do in business, you're not met with that response. So when people go to your website, they're not thinking, meh. And when you say what you do, they're not thinking, meh. And instead, they're excited and they're thinking, "F yeah, that's something I can get interested in."
I've thought this for years. Is people fall into this. This is what I think business people do. So Anne Handley, I know, is talks in her book about how people are very, hello, I work with a range of people delivering a product that's specific to our clients' needs, and all the people that are, stick in my mind are like have a bit of not forced charisma, but they say something interesting,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I nearly hesitated there because it's not like you have to be interesting, but it's like you don't have to be so boring and compliant, and no one likes, people don't sit down and go like, my God, I really want to read another bland, middle of the road, so safe you want to kill yourself corporate statement. They want something with a bit of intrigue.
Yeah, and it's not, you don't have to, like you say, you don't have to kind of be that flamboyant type. You don't have to be an extrovert. You just have to be different. What the problem we're suffering with at the moment, Bernie, and this is one of the reasons your content stands out, is because it is different and you're very open about what you talk about, and there's no kind of holds barred. But the vanilla kind of baseline of content online is people just sharing the dull and the drab and the day-to-day. And the problem we've got is attention. People don't pay attention to anything because we're awash. I was on a webinar with HubSpot recently, and somebody cited the stat that on average we see 4,000 ads per day. And that's just the ads. That's not the organic content that we're bombarded with, and the cold emails and everything else. 4,000 ads, and if we're gonna stand out and grab someone's attention, competing with all of that, then it's not going to be the run of the mill that's going to grab that attention. It's going to be what's different. Now, I was sitting on a tube train a few weeks ago, and you've done this many times, I know, Bernie. You'll see pretty much there is a uniform in London, and people, especially in winter, where people will just wear black and dark grey coats and their scarves and hats and everything. There's no real colour to it. It's all very kind of 1984. And there was a guy sitting on this tube carriage in amongst all of this, and no word of a lie, his jacket was just made of what looked like crow feathers. And it was this big bulbous jacket made of crow feathers, and it couldn't have possibly have just come from fabric, or it wasn't on his way to fabric, but it was that kind of outfit. And he got my attention. He's the one who stood out and who I'm talking about now. I couldn't put a face or any kind of description to anybody else on that carriage. And it's because what is different gets noticed, gets the attention. So you don't have to be the best at everything even. It's just be different.
That description of the tube carriage, like now I don't live in London and I come in and get on the tube once a month. I cannot believe I tolerated that for so long. And everyone is grey and black, even though they're individuals. That's really accurate. I was as you were talking, I was trying to remember when you said the word advert just now. There was something I was listening to, and it was Google AdWords, and it was for lawyers, and it was for divorce lawyers, and all the adverts, and there was 15 of them in this thing with best divorce lawyers for you. And there was no point. And one of them said, I can't remember, it was a question do you know if your husband's cheating on you? And out of everything, and everyone was saying that first that was about the person, about, if you're cheating on me, Matt, that's got my attention immediately. And then it wasn't, all the others were can you imagine how many of those you read if you're in that situation? And they all say the same thing and you become immune.
That's exactly it. And it's the problem with TV advertising. The best they can do is to profile the kind of person who watches that particular TV show in which you've got that ad, or the show that's about to start, or the show that's just finished, and kind of think, okay, well, what sort of products should we pitch to that sort of person? But it's always going to be too generic, and we will always have to sit through ads for stuff that just aren't applicable to us. And this is the basis of attention. This is what a lot of people miss out on, I think, when they're advertising, when they're targeting the right people. The very first thing you've got to make anybody feel within a split second is, this is for me. They've got to identify themselves in the proposition, in the message, in the way that you're speaking, in the headline. And I think a lot of people fail to do that, fail to capture that sort of response. And then within another split second, you got to make them feel that they haven't heard or seen anything like that before. And you can get scientific. You can start talking about the amygdala, the reptile brain, and the fact that it's looking for things, in order to keep you safe. And it will notice things that are out of the ordinary, and it will be your kind of, your night watchman, basically, keeping you safe. But it's also the bit that will say, is this worthy of your attention? Have you seen or heard this before? And that's the kind of thing that stops you falling for scams and looking out for the bad actors and the ne'er-do-wells in the crowd. And your messaging has to break through that. So what looks like the person? What kind of challenges are they facing? What are they going through that you can resonate with and tap into? And then what can you say that's going to be different that they wouldn't have heard before? Those are the two things to focus on.
And because I don't really want to say the word, a consultant. So I avoided that word for years, and sometimes I just need to use that word. I like the way, when I was a story brand guide, we started calling each other, they like the word guide, but not everyone knows that. It's not in the public lexicon. So, yeah. But how can you be a consultant without being a consultant?
That's a great question. I mean, because a lot of people hold a lot of stock in the word consultant. They recognize it. And I talk a lot about the fact that if you're going to use different language that stands out, that isn't common parlance, to grab that attention, then what you stand the fear of doing really is to stop yourself from being discoverable. That people tap stuff into Google. You've got to be found for what people understand that you are. So they might look for a co-working expert, co-working consultant, for example, and that would be quite a common thing. And maybe I don't know of any others. Clearly, there's only one in my mind, but there might be others out there. So what can you say? You've got to match the pace of the buyer. You've got to match the pace of the people whose attention you want. So you can't be too kind of out there with some people, and especially in consultancies, they want to be seen as professionals. So whilst you might have companies out there that refer to themselves as magicians and ninjas and commanders, it's not going to resonate with a lot of people, and they're going to think, no, we can't say that. People will just laugh at us. So there's a balance to be made. But consultants can be any number of things. Another word that's a little bit meh still, but partner. When people say that we are your digital transformation partners. Now that is a very meta term, and it's so overused out in the online space. But the word partners, at least, kind of it creates this perception of parallel, of that you're going to have somebody who is on a level with you. It sets the right tone for the working relationship. But and experts, a lot of people, might be a bit of Britishness in us. We don't like to sing our own praises. Experts, people feel like, oh, we're going to be on the hook. We need to be the absolute. We have to know everything. We have to be, that real academic type. And in reality, you just need to know a bit more than the client you're working with to be perceived as an expert. So there's an element of that, wanting to put yourself out there, put your head above the parapet, be brave about these things. And, there's plenty of language out there that you can be using that matches the pace of the buyer, but also doesn't sound like what everybody else is saying.
So the other thing I'm dying to ask you about is positioning, because that is, in different guises of the Bernie Mitchell machine. When I think it was, I don't know, whenever it was, I'll be years trying to reminisce, but at some point I understood positioning much better. And there's a book that's on the tip of my tongue, which you probably know, which was about positioning. So can you explain a bit about that?
Yeah. Well, positioning is really about the perception that people have. The way that I describe it is it's a lens. It's the lens through which your ideal buyers see your value proposition. Now, if your positioning is off, and positioning is really just down to the language. It's what you use to describe your value proposition in the context of your ideal buyer. But if that lens is off prescription, if it's shaded, if it's scratched in some way, and if it stops the buyer from seeing your value proposition in all its glory, in ultimate clarity, then that's when your positioning is off. That's when you don't get the attention. That's when they just scroll past you and go on to the next thing. So positioning, when done well, it allows your buyers to see what you're doing, to get excited about it, to understand that it's relevant and it's going to help them, and therefore compel them to respond. Because I talk a lot about attention and having to grab that, but it's actually grabbing attention is one thing. Having people actually respond to you, to get in touch, to reply to your email, to accept your connection request on LinkedIn, whatever it might be, that's quite an additional step. It's these are all micro commitments. You've got to lead people on a journey, and getting your positioning right is really key to that. It's about your communicating your worthiness to that particular individual in front of you. And
how do you avoid being? Sorry for my leading questions, Matthew. As consultants, you go online and you hear, people like Jonathan Stark and Matt Hodgkinson say, this is how I built my Lola. And then you start out as this guy or girl. And I've met so many people who are like really well equipped to help someone, and they don't know where to begin with helping someone. And you don't want to be the person sliding into people's DMs. So, like, how do you get started?
I think again, when it comes to escaping meh and being noticed, it's about taking a different approach as well. And what I'm a part of my own positioning and as a business is about taking a stance very strongly against all of these people that are perpetuating the cold mass outreach kind of way of reaching people. So, we've got all these LinkedIn automation tools out there at the moment, like Dripify and Duck Soup and Meet Alfred and all of these types of things. And what people see there is this ability to reach thousands of people, and they think personalization is hailing people by their first name, and that's enough for them to think, oh, this message is for me, I need it, it's deserving of my attention. And that's clearly not the case. So I think the next step in terms of being able to get that attention, and it's the approach as much as anything else, and doing something different. So, for example, you'll no doubt have come across Daniel Disney in your journeys. He's the kind of LinkedIn expert, and I was reading a book of his recently, The Ultimate LinkedIn Messaging Guide. And what I get on a day-to-day basis is this connect and pitch. It's people requesting to connect with me and then just dumping on me their entire value proposition in 2 paragraphs with an invitation to book a call on their calendar. They haven't even asked me if I need what they do. They haven't diagnosed me in any way. In many, many cases, they are way offbeat, trying to pitch me something that I will never need. So it's back to those adverts for the inappropriate stuff. It's irritating. It's not disruptive. It's just interruptive, and it's taking my attention away from things that are more deserving of my attention. So the flip side to that is about taking, and this again is part of our values, is always taking a personal, manual, hyper-personalized approach to talking to people as human beings. And that sounds like, to you, that's going to sound, of course, Bernie, because that's always been your way, like the baseline. That's the bargain basement level of human interaction. But for many, it's been forgotten, it's been sidelined, it's been swept aside in favor of this, let's just tell everybody about my crap proposition that may or may not be fit for you, and maybe 1 in a million will actually respond and give me their business. So do different as well as say different, I guess, is the message from that.
I have so many tools and gadgets that I've bought on AppSumo over the years that would allow me to, message thousands of people in one hit with a thing. There's been, I can't remember that, like in all my time on LinkedIn, which is like since 2008, I've only ever messaged everyone once. And I can't remember what it was for, but it was really good. And it was kind of worth it because so many people responded with, and I wasn't selling anything, I'm keen to say. It was something, it was like Live Aid or something. But God, it was, you don't get it anymore, do you? But it used to be so tempting to, I've got a great offer. It's 50% off if you buy before midday. When people message me, do you know Text Expander, where you can have all these shortcuts and
yeah.
So I have this whole blog post ready. So I type in blog Z and respond, and I put the person's name in because I want to personalize it. So like, dear Matt, thanks for your interest today. Here's how we do things. And it explains all the networks, Slack groups, all the co-working stuff, everything I'm connected to. And at the end it says, so if I was going to buy a, IT consultant, I would probably get it from, one of these thousands of people. And every so often someone comes back with thanks for your thing. I noticed you said this. And every so often someone is like genuinely in it, but most people never reply, probably because they're a bit annoyed, but it is insane how people think that's okay. So something I want to drop on you. I can't remember who it was, otherwise I would definitely credit them, but they said the problem with that type of marketing and growth hacking is it's fueled by venture capital. So, someone puts $1 million, 10 million into your account and they want fast growth and return, and you will hang up your, humanity and hit as many people as you can in order to get a result. Because when you do hit thousands of people, like you do get a little bit of a result. So it's stamped in the face of organic growth for, quick return. And
yeah, and I think that's what you're absolutely right. It's determined by the environment. If you're in that PE environment where your investors are driven for growth, and they'll be looking at history, they'll be looking at past performance, they'll be looking at the fact that people have been sending out these mass emails, and they know that, well, they equate that to scale. And the reality is that the world is changing. Again, I mean, we've never been in that position before where we're hit with 4,000 ads plus all the organic content on a day-by-day basis. And it's rising. Nobody's kind of taking their foot off the gas pedal when it comes to creating content and messaging and outreach and everything else. And what they're looking at is performance at a time when we were more tolerant, and people are becoming far less tolerant at a much, much greater pace than ever before. I feel like humanity is saying, look, enough is enough. And you're going to really have to win me over now if you're going to get my attention, and if you're going to get me to respond to anything that you ask or tell me to do. And that's why these things are so ineffective now. And that we're having to dial it back to basics, and things go in cycles as well. I'm always interested in which channels are working right now, and it tends to, much like the housing market, tends to go in like 7, 8, 10-year cycles. So direct marketing always makes a comeback every now and then, putting that lumpy mail through the door box or the letterbox, and then in a couple of years' time, it'll be back to some sort of digital advertising that's winning the day. But the constant is that whatever channel you're using, whatever method of getting in front of your potential buyers or partners or any other type of person that's going to help you, hopefully mutually, that the message is the constant. It's the message that will do the work and get the attention. No one channel is dead. People say email marketing's dead or Google ads are dead, whatever it might be. It's always the message. The message will make anything work. And that's the importance of positioning again.
That thing is when like as a consultant, you don't need you're not selling widgets, so it's not like you need 10,000 people. I was in some roundtable like 2014 or something, ages, and I was like, oh my god, I don't have like traffic, and whoever was running the workshop said, so how many clients could you handle a month? And it came, all of us were like 4 to 6. If I was doing like 15 clients, I'm not an agency, I'm an individual lone ranger independent economic agent. My face would fall off if I had more than that. And it was about keeping the challenge was like keeping the messaging and marketing going, because as soon as you get some clients, you forget to tell anyone, and then they all leave, and then you have to panic. So so last question is, it's where are we now? May 2023. As an independent economic agent, what channel would you invest your time in, and what channel would you like hang up on for now?
Consultancies, for anybody in the B2B space, LinkedIn is untouchable. And I still think it's untapped. I know it is one of the most misused as well. It's the one where I get the most of those connect and pitch requests, as I say, every day, and you have to bat them away constantly. But the people who are doing consistent and different things on LinkedIn right now are absolutely killing it. There's a guy, have you come across Chris Doe? Who,
I think I know the name, yeah.
Future 23. Yeah, if you, he's great at putting out these carousel document posts, and he does them on a daily basis. They're always well crafted. The message is always on point, and he gets incredible amounts of engagement. He's got a huge following on LinkedIn. You just see people like that who are absolutely killing it, and there are a handful that just come up in my feed, and you just see. It's not all about the engagement, by the way. There are other more important metrics. People are checking your profile. Check your profile views. Make sure that people are actually checking you out as a person. That's better than just thumbs up and claps and smiley faces and everything. But it's those that are being most prolific on LinkedIn, that are being most respectful of people's personal space, if you like, in terms of their inbox and their DMs and what have you. Those are the ones that are winning for me. As I say, no channel is dead, but I think there are. If I were going to retire one, I would retire any sort of paid outreach, at least until you've made one organic channel really work for you. If you haven't got the sort of response and the wins from an organic channel up to this point, then ads aren't going to fix your problem. Reaching more people isn't the problem. It's a conversion issue. It's about people really buying into what you're doing, buying into your message, being compelled to get involved and make a response. And once you're getting that response, that's the time, if you need to scale it. But as you said, most of the people we deal with aren't looking for huge numbers of new clients. The most common response when I ask, how many new clients do you need in the next year? It comes down to 1 a month, 12 a year on average. Some come back and say, we need 1 a quarter. We're dealing with clients who, the lifetime value of a deal for them, for a client into their business, is 6, sometimes 7 figures. And so, they don't need too many to make game-changing differences to their fortunes. And so you can keep it personal, you can keep it small scale. You don't need to dominate any one particular channel, and you certainly don't, in many cases, need to be paying for traffic to make that happen.
Beautiful. Where can first just spell out how you help people and where people can find you, and we'll put links in the show notes.
Yeah, well, there's really 2 stages to what I do. So there's 2 ways to escape MEH. And the first is to fix your position and create a competitionless position in the marketplace. And that's what we help our consultancy and B2B clients to do. We've got a program called MEHscapology, which helps them to do exactly that. So they can contact me about that. The other phase of what we do is essentially helping them to then activate that position in the marketplace to get the attention they deserve. And if you're interested in the process, it just happens to be that just about a month ago, my first book called MEHscapology was released on Amazon. So that'd be a great way for you to ingratiate yourself into the way of thinking. And then, reach out to me if you'd like to chat more.
We'll put a link in the show notes to that. Is it, I'm going to ask, is there an audio one yet, Matt? How's that going?
I've got all the gear, but as you've just heard, that microphone needs a bit of work. So I'm doing it all myself. Yeah, but yes, it will be coming. Yeah, very, very soon. That's
it. I still remember our F7 days. With great love. I think it's like 10 years now. I just love seeing your career and adventures blossom over this time. So thanks for your time today, Matt. And ladies and gentlemen, link in the show notes. And if you we'll put a link in the show notes to the Creator Write Club. And that means you can go and sit in a London co-working space every weekday from 10 till 12 and meet with other people who are like writing everything from sales letters to academic papers to whatever you want to do. And it's a great way of one of the key things about growing your network, your business, your projects is connecting with other human beings. So get out your house 10 to 12 every day in a central London co-working space. Thanks very much, folks. Say goodbye, Matt.
Thanks, Bernie. Bye.
You've been listening to the Tech London Show. If you're interested in joining the community or even making an appearance on this show, make sure you join our Slack group over at techlondon.io. Till next time.